welcome to another Checiegirl Creations video. So today I will be doing a watercolor painting of a koi fish. This was for my grandmother's birthday card. So sometimes what I like to do, especially for someone special, I like to do like a painting and attach it to the card. And you'll see how I do that later on in the video. So I did pin a few photos of koi fish just so I know like what they look like properly, and I will link that down below so you guys can see the reference photos I used. I didn't use one in particular, I just had like a group of them and then just kind of like figured out how to do it. So I swatched out a couple colors. The colors I ended up using was Cadmium Red Pale Hue and Phthalo Blue. And I'm swatching them like this just to see how like everything looks like together, but I narrowed it down to just 2 colors. Oh, and if you would like to see this video in real time with real-time commentary, you could become a patron from just $3 a month. So that'll also be linked down below on my Patreon page. So yeah, so I thought I would just quickly mention that before we carry on. So I did a couple thumbnails. Initially I was going to do like 2 koi fish circling each other, a bit like the kind of yin and yang symbol. I think that's the right word. So that's what I was thinking of first, and at the time I thought I was going to use some yellow as well, but I just stuck to the orangey color and the blue color. Oh, and these are Winsor and Newton Cotman watercolors, by the way, just in case you were wondering. And all the materials that I use will be listed down below in the description. Yeah, just in case I forget to mention something. So yeah, so I just made a couple thumbnails. And this is pretty much like how I plan something when I do want to plan it. Like, especially with watercolors, I think it's useful to plan things with watercolors because you can't really like go back on a stroke. Like, you want to know where your lights and darks will be. So yeah, so I do a little bit of planning. You can do even more planning than like I do, but I just do a little bit. Especially with my watercolors, like I've been getting into that practice doing my color palette Wednesday videos for Patreon, and yeah, so it's really useful to do like a little bit of planning when you do have an idea in your head already and you just want to kind of like figure some things out. And yeah, but it all depends on what I'm doing, because if I'm art journaling, I'll probably just jump straight into it like normal. So I was like thinking of maybe not lining this piece. I have been lining my watercolor paintings recently, so I was just seeing like how that might look. So like I sketched it out, then I just lightened the pencil and then put the paint down and see how that looked. And again, I'm trying it again to kind of see like if I would be able to pull it off, but then I decided to line it anyway. I just figured it would probably make my life simpler, especially since I'm not used to drawing fishes, and I was struggling with the fins mostly. The body of the fish wasn't too difficult, but like the fins were quite difficult. And here I'm just like kind of seeing how I might have added shadows, and I was just mixed the shadow color was like the blue and the orange again. Since those are opposite on the color wheel, they will make like a brown or a gray, so I'll show you that later on in the video at some point. So again, I'm just practicing now how to draw the fish properly, since I had already figured out like what colors I'll be using. And yeah, so it's just the fins that was difficult for me really. I still don't think I got them like perfectly, but I was happy with how it turned out anyway, so that's fine. So I did my sketch on my watercolor block. This is my A6 one. And I use a circle to kind of like draw like a spotlight background for like the water, and I'll lighten the sketch using my Kneadable Eraser. And I'm lining the sketch with UniPin Fineliners. I can't remember all the sizes I use, so that will be listed down below in the description if you want to know for sure. But what I can say is that like some areas, like I think I might have used 0.2 for the body, but then I did kind of thicken the line still using the 0.2. So yeah, I just thickened lines where I wanted it and then left it thin where I wanted it. I was quite enjoying playing with like the line thickness, just to get like different textures and to show like what's behind something. or what might have more shadows. So it's just fun to play with line textures. I really got into like kind of like doodling all over this. And yeah, so I enjoyed doing that. And like for the fins especially, I was doing like kind of squiggly texture just to show that they're not, that they're a lot more flowy than the body. So yeah, so I just find when I'm doing line work, I like to play with the textures of the pen and the thicknesses, to have varying thicknesses, just to have a bit more interest in my piece. So like the base of the fins I did make darker, just I thought it might be darker. I don't know if it is. I'm just putting my own spin on things like I normally do. And I'm not going to line the circle. That will be lineless, that spotlight background. And I did take a photo of this. What I found, and I'll touch on that, is that I found that I put a lot on my plate with like how much videos I want to make for Patreon, and I do enjoy making all those videos, especially like the color palette Wednesday ones. So every time I do like a line art for my watercolor paintings, I take a photo and I want to turn them into coloring pages, and that's like one of the things I want to do other than videos, because my videos do take a while for me to make, mostly because I'm really slow when it comes to creating, and editing takes a while as well. So I've decided to make like my color palette Wednesday videos like fortnightly. So I still make them because those are like one of my favorite videos to make. But then I'll have a little bit more time to do more things like make coloring pages for my patrons, as well as like other products that I want to bring out. Like I'm still working on my smudge bowls, but I just haven't had the time. So this coming month I'm kind of changing up my schedule a little bit. Still like Friday videos of course as usual, but I thought I'll just let you guys know that I'm just having to adjust things to be able to like work out. And I did find this online course, I think it's by Lisa Condon, I think is how you say her name. I'll link it down below. It's on Creative Live, this like online learning platform, and it's all about like workflow and time management, and that course was really informative, and I found it was really useful, so I'll link that down below. So some of the things I already do, but I can see like how to be able to make what I do work for me a lot more from watching that course. So back to the process. I'm working in like different areas because the water's kind of cut off by the fish. So I'm doing this area first, and I was thinking the light is coming from the left, so I will put like a lot of shadows like next to the fish and then just kind of blend them out. So first I did like a wash of the color, and then I added like dabbed in a stronger amount of pigment, and then just kind of blended that out. And I do have to go over and like smooth that out because I didn't get a very good flat wash. Not that I was worried about getting a very flat wash because it is water, so I thought if it's not flat, that's not too bad. So yeah, so that's what I'm doing. So I did want to be able to show that the fish is casting some shadows, so I make next to the fish very dark on like the left side, but on the right side there won't be like any shadows because there's nothing casting a shadow. So that's why I was just trying to get like my lights and darks in the right place. And I'm using a round paintbrush. That's what I use for my watercolors now. I actually did pick up a set of round paintbrushes from Hobbycraft recently. By the time you're watching this video, it's probably last week I got it, because this paintbrush came in a set of different like paintbrushes that all had like the same kind of handle, and that was from Hobbycraft. So these paintbrushes I got, they weren't too bad. They were just the Hobbycraft brand, so I'm going to test those out and see how those work. So maybe next week's video I might have tested them out already and I can see like if they work well or not. Yeah, because this one I can see that this paintbrush is starting to show a little bit of wear and tear. So, and I did also want a couple different like sizes of round brushes instead of just having the one, and they look like they come to a really nice fine point, so we'll see how that works. So yeah, this is what I like about doing a watercolor painting like this, where like certain areas are cut off by something, so I can kind of bounce around the painting. Oh, and those are the brown and the gray I mixed just using the orange and the blue. So yeah, you can see like what you can do with a limited color palette, but I didn't end up using the gray or the brown in the end. So you can see like how uneven the side with like the shadow is. So what I'm doing is I'm starting from the outside of the circle and just going in with a very light wash of paint and then moving closer to the fish, because I figured I didn't want all of that water to get really dark, but I didn't mind next to the fish being dark, so that's why I work from the outside inwards. So I did that, and then the side with all like the light looked really like too light. It just didn't look right, so I thought I would just add another wash of color so that it would just make a bit more sense, and it did look a lot better after that. And this paper that I'm using, this watercolor block, I'll link a tutorial on how I made that. It's from Hobbycraft as well. Again, the Hobbycraft brand, I think it's like 190 GSM, so it's not the best. So it is warping, but it's great for beginners and stuff. And just things like this where it doesn't matter too much. It works well for. So now for the fish, I wet like the whole body of the fish and then just kind of dabbed the paint in and then blended it out. And I'm doing the same with the fins, but what I'm doing is I'm kind of putting the color down, then wetting the rest of the fin and slowly letting the color like blend out. And I liked how that looked a lot more than how I did the fish. Like the fish, there was a lot of hard edges, so I do have to go in and like redo the fish again, which was a shame because I lost that like white border, which is what I really wanted. So that's where like maybe I should have done a little bit more planning, but that's okay. I still like how it turned out. And that's just something for you to be aware of. Like what I should have done is wet the body, do like the orange, and then like just slowly kind of blend the edge a little bit, so the white isn't a stark white, but it's still a lot lighter than the rest of the fish, like what I'm doing with the fins. So now I know like how I should have improved, and if I'm ever doing something like this again, I already know like what to do. Now with the fish, I did kind of get a bit confused with myself, like where the lights and shadows are supposed to be. So like on the fins, like the tail fins, I made like the wrong place dark, but you don't really notice it at when it's finished, so that's not too bad. Thankfully, yeah, thankfully it wasn't like too noticeable. Yeah, so did the fins, and I did make sure to let the fins like dry before I went in and did the body again. So of course this is watercolor, so everything does get reconstituted. So I lost my white border, but what I did was I made the like middle of the fish a lot darker, so that hopefully I didn't lose too much of that like kind of light dark contrast. And I did by accident go over like the middle fin. I wish I knew the names of these things, but like the middle fin, so I do have to go in and like add more white in with my white gel pen. And I found the fins were looking a little bit light next to that body, so I do add in a little bit more color like in the ends and then just kind of blend it out so there's no hard edges, and I liked how that looked a lot more. And if you like watch my videos and you're inspired by what I do and you do create something and share it, please do like tag me on Instagram, on Facebook. I also have a Facebook group that you can share in, so I would love to see what you guys create. And what have you guys been getting up to? Like, have you guys been doing what have you been creating recently? Have you been doing watercolors, acrylics, mixed media? Like, let me know down below in the comments. And I've actually, on that topic, I have been doing daily studies. As of last week, I started my daily studies. You probably would have seen a post on Instagram like last Sunday, using gouache to do studies, and that was really fun in my sketchbook. So I'm continuing doing that. I'm really enjoying doing that. It's fun doing it with paint. Yeah, I enjoy it a lot more than pen, even though I do still enjoy sketching with pen. So that's one of the things I've been doing recently. So you can see that I put white in like the top fin, and I also added some highlights to like the rest of the fish. And I'm letting that white dry because I do want to go over with a bit of orange. So when I'm doing that, I'm adding some bubbles. At first I was only adding like a few, and then I went a bit overboard, but actually I really like how much bubbles were in the water, because I found like the water was so plain looking. So I'm glad I added like all of those bubbles, and I also added some highlights to the scales as well. and just to kind of brighten things up because things did get a bit dark. And let me see. Oh yes, so now I'm going to redo the line art. It just got a little bit, these watercolors are kind of transparent, but if I keep on layering it up, it does get a bit opaque because they are student grade, so it's to be expected. So I do go over and like redo my line work to just kind of sharpen things up a little bit. And that did help make the fish pop a lot more from the background. And I think I also added some black bubbles as well. I'm not sure. I feel as if I did. Maybe I do. I can't remember. Yeah, because sometimes when I use black in something, I do like to put it in other areas of the painting. And since this isn't like a realistic painting, why not? So I'm lining that fin. What you want to do, if you're going in and adding more lines with your fine liners by your gel pens, please make sure your gel pen is dry because otherwise you'll clog up your fine liner. So I went in to add the orange and very quickly remembered that the pen was not dry yet. So I ended up making that really gray and I was like, oh boy. And I just kept on making a whole bunch of like mistakes with this one, to be honest. So now that I'm adding in the gold, I thought just to make things nice and shiny, because I love to add gold to things. So I add the gold to like the fish, as well as some gold bubbles. And I do go in and just completely cover the fin, that white fin on top of the fish, with gold, because I just figured, you know what, I think it's just time to cover things over, because it just kept on like, the pen wasn't drying as fast as I thought it was, and then I was making it gray, so I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to cover that with gold. Well, I do add some black bubbles. Yes, I did. So I signed it and I removed it from the block using a palette knife, and here's a quick close-up so you can see how like shiny it is, and it is off center, so I'm trimming it down to center it up so I can add it to the card. I'll be using some Kraft like card blanks by Docrafts Papermania, I think it is. Of course that'll be down in the description below. And the way I attach my paintings to the card, I use like these kind of photo corners, these clear photo corners, which I'm showing you now, and I stick those to the card and then like slip the painting in. So if the person wants to take the painting off and frame it, they have the freedom to. So I like to do that. So it's a bit like a present and a card like in one. So yeah, so I'm trimming down the card because they never fold like perfectly, so I always trim the edges. And I grab some cardstock. I think it's like 200 GSM from like Poundland. So it's great quality for like the price, and because it's like a different white, it's a very bright white, but the watercolor paper is like an off-white, I did go over with some of the cadmium pale red hue to like just make it go with the painting a little bit more. And I'm adding happy birthday with my rigger brush, just brush lettering that. And I do go in and add some like orange, blue and gold splats. I think I might have added some like black kind of dots as well. And I also go in and like add some gold to the letters as well, just to kind of just bring it together and just make it work with the painting as well. And I didn't do that very centered, so I do like kind of chop off the end. I wasn't really measuring things, since it was a card. I knew I could like, I've done it enough that I can just kind of wing it. And yeah, so I went in and lined the letters as well, just to help them like pop a little bit more, because I did make like the background of the sentiment a little bit busy. And once I did that, it was time to trim it down to size and to attach it. So I use a tape runner, a double-sided tape runner, and some tacky glue to stick that down. Of course, I put on the photo corners and attached the painting. And off camera, because I didn't have one at the time, I like to put like a made by sticker on the back of the card as well. So yeah, that is pretty much it. Yep, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to click that notification bell to see whenever I upload a new video. It is every Friday, but just in case I upload a bonus video, you can find out. And I did go around the sentiment with the Stazon Ink Pad as well. I forgot about that one. So yeah, so thanks again for watching. If you are already a subscriber, thanks for sticking around, and I will see you guys next week. So don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you've been getting up to in the comments below, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.